Part 173. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1726. Greet lowered his head and touched his palms, then his chest. He lowered his head and looked at himself, swept his mental power across his body, then closed his eyes and meditated for a while. No. Nothing. Senior sister, when your lightning struck down, I felt as if I hadn't been hit by anything. Could your lightning be fake, right? Have you successfully advanced? If it weren't for Servilia and Idion, who both said that you are already a legend, I really couldn't believe it. Archmage Philby, no, now she is a legend. She looked at her junior brother from an extremely far distance and smiled sweetly. He didn't see how she moved. Her figure suddenly disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already standing a step away from Gretel. You will know when you go back and do an experiment. Well, test your chromosomes and compare them with the previous ones. Gretel only regretted that she did not have clairvoyance and could not immediately observe her chromosomes. But then I thought about it and realized the meaning of senior sister's words, and immediately trembled all over. Teacher, senior sister. Can you control chromosomes? It's still manipulation from such a distance. He didn't react at all. His instinctive defense net showed no resistance at all. What terrible magic is this? In case he is not a friendly force, but an enemy, senior sister can do this and write something into his chromosomes, or simply let his chromosomes collapse. It's scary to think about it, isn't it? It was invisible at the time, and it was probably still in the middle of a chaotic battle, so people couldn't feel it at all. 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. The whole person collapsed without any warning. Even a legend may not be able to resist this move. The elementalization of the legend is only a partial elementalization. Even if it reaches the third level of the legend, part of it is still flesh and blood. Surrounded by rustling, the legendary ancient tree Servilia shook its branches and leaves and quietly took 2 steps back. Princess Norrell, who had landed there, had a serious expression on her face and immediately stopped shouting. Stop talking. Let's change places, go to the top of the mage tower, to a safer place. Gretel, is there any place here that is equipped with anti-detection magic, where you can talk safely? There really is such a place. If Greet was expected to set up defenses by himself, it would probably be a mode of guarding against gentlemen but not against villains. However, Archmage Philby intervened in the construction of the Mage Tower and decisively filled up all the defenses. After the Lord of Thunder arrived, he walked up and down again and set up several kinds of defenses that could only be set up by his own methods and that people with a power level lower than him could not break through by force. Now that the master's wife was alive, the group moved to Gretel's Mage Tower and began to review. So, your spell can work on other people's chromosomes. Princess Norrell's face was solemn. What a powerful ability this is. It can kill people almost invisible, and everyone below the legend, no, below the demigod, has no way to defend. There is a saying that when you are carrying a sharp weapon, you will have a murderous intention. There is another possibility. When others know that you are carrying a sharp weapon and they are unable to defend themselves, they will also become murderous towards you. Not yet. Philby legend smiled, her long hair gently swaying, and the blue-white electric sparks at the tips of her hair appeared and disappeared. In other words, it can only enhance a small part. So far, I have only positioned less than 20 configurations, and they have all been tested on myself. So, senior sister, the reason why you accelerated your advancement this time is because you understood the method of controlling electric current and charging the spell configuration in your chromosomes. Greet's whole body felt bad. He stared at his senior sister and was speechless. In other words, he only dared to use meditation to charge the spell configuration in his body, inducing it bit by bit and resonating bit by bit. He didn't know whether the resonance was successful or not. To charge the spell configuration in someone else's body, for example, a dragon egg, one can only use a limited wish spell. A safer and more efficient charging method than limited wishing has not yet been found. Senior sister, why are you so tough? You use electricity directly. Forget about the electric current in the body, let's assume that you can control the bioelectricity and condense it in a certain direction. However, how do you control external current and directly enter other people's bodies? Senior sister? The mistress also thought of this, and looked at Philby with an extremely serious look, even a little worried. She asked softly. So, in addition to enhancing chromosome points, can you do anything else? For example, lethal attacks. Of course, Philby smiled easily. Destruction is much easier than construction. As long as more current flows in, no fixed point is needed, it can explode at will. Just casually, you can mess up the enemy's chromosomes into a mess. Gretel sighed silently. Senior sister is indeed a senior sister. Even if she develops a spell based on medical research, her first thought is to develop offensive magic. So, senior sister, it seems that your magic is difficult to defend against. At least, it came before I even reacted, and the defensive magic on my body did not automatically resist. It's useless for you to react, Philby smiled proudly. This magic uses the wave-particle duality of electrons and can bypass most defenses. Unless you are a demigod or a caster who can master this characteristic, I can hit whoever I want. Fortunately, such a declaration was made in the Mage Tower, under heavy defenses, to a limited number of people. If you dare to say it outside, you will be torn into pieces in an instant. Greet leaned back tiredly. Alas, how long are the brains of high-level mages? He also listened to the class and understood the principle of wave-particle duality. He had no idea how to use this thing in magic. Gretel looked up and down, looking at the senior sister back and forth several times, and sighed. Senior sister, you must have a trump card. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to get the legendary title. The teacher is already the Lord of Thunder, and you are also in the direction of thunder, so it is not easy to compete with him. Grab the title. Then I don't care. Philby raised her eyebrows and said with heroic spirit. Titles like this give those old guys in Nevis a headache. Anyway, they have nothing to do day by day. As long as you don't give me the name Flower of Thunder, they can call me whatever they want. In fact, it's because things like legendary titles won't be released to the outside world without the nod of the legend himself, right? That's why, senior sister, you are so calm, because you can call back at will anyway. By the way, senior sister, you are now a legend. Do you want to go back to Nevis and take charge? Free senior brother. It's almost the end of the month. It's almost the end of the month. Everyone, search for your votes and vote for the cat. The goal for this month is still 4,000 votes. When you reach 4,000 votes, you can get 6 months of votes for additional updates. I secretly said that the cat's payment will be finished soon, and it will be finished by the end of this month. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1727. No way. Philby replied reflexively. The repulsion is as firm as a cat whose tail has been stepped on, that is, the hair does not stand up, and there are some electric sparks floating on it, and the specific performance is to explode the hair. How happy it is to stay in Longdeo. How comfortable life is. Money, no, research funding, you can get whatever you want. If you are short of research materials, just say a word and little Gretel will try his best to blackmail the Dragon Clan. For work, you don't have to do anything except research what you want to study. Just focus on improving yourself and don't worry about those trivial things. Chatting with legends, fighting with various schools to grab resources, worrying about what the glory Holy See did today, needing to send people to take a trip to the coast, tossing around with all this is just a waste of life. I am still far away from the teacher. I can't hear the teacher's teachings and do experiments with the teacher all the time. Like the senior brother, when the teacher gives a class, you have to notify him in advance and he flies over from Nevis to set up a teleportation point. This kind of thing is too troublesome. In short, I would definitely not do anything like sitting in Nevis. According to convention, the time a legend stays in Nevis and looks after the mysterious locks of the Tower of Babel on behalf of the school is counted in hundreds of years. Senior brother has just taken up his duties, let him stay for 100 years before we talk. By the way, build a few more wells of eternity in Nevis, build them wherever possible, and build all the places where a mage tower can be built. A well of eternity means a powerful mage tower that can support the mythical level of Igor Peak. If we build one every 100 miles along the coastline on the Hall Strait, one every 100 miles. That means that the kingdom has built a copper and iron wall facing the glorious Holy See. Only a small amount of resources are needed to directly secure the Hall Strait. This golden waterway is under our control from now on. Moreover, the Well of Eternity means almost unlimited energy. Whether doing various magic experiments, processing various magic props, or processing various daily necessities, it can bring stable and crushing advantages. A large area of mislock also means a large area of good weather. Maximizing the power of the mystery lock and only using it to occasionally intervene in the weather also means that there can be stable, high quality, and guaranteed food output. When you have food in your hands and don't panic in your heart, a country's food security is guaranteed and you have the confidence to do anything. Therefore, Your Excellency Crown of the Sun, you should stay well in Nevis, stay in the Kingdom of Kent, and spread the Well of Eternity all over the country. Junior sister, I will come back for you in 100 years. Philby had a wonderful idea. Greet stared into her smiling eyes, but slowly shook her head. Senior sister, have you ever thought about what if senior brother insists on coming back? What if the teacher insists on replacing you? For example, show off that we have 3 legends in Thunderhorn. 1 door and 3 legends. If I were the Lord of Thunder, if I didn't pull one with my left hand and another with my right hand, and fly around the Tower of Babel 99 and 81 times, my idea would be unreasonable. Of the 8 schools of thought in the Magic Council, no legend has ever done this kind of thing. Okay. This. Philby gave a rare hesitation. Although the possibility of the teacher doing this is small, it cannot be said to be impossible, even just a little bit. Even if it's just to send her to Nevis for a tour, meet people, and go through various formalities. Senior brother has been annoyed to death by various meetings in Nevis recently. If he sees her, he will definitely dump the trouble on her. What do you suggest? She suddenly came to her senses. The junior brother looked at her with a smile like this and didn't say anything. He must be holding back some dirty tricks. Instead of trying to think of something yourself, why not ask him directly? Senior sister, please help me do a batch of experiments. Sure enough, Greet skillfully showed his sweetest smile. I'll submit the experiment content and let the Dragon Clan pass it on. When the time comes, it will be said that my experiment here cannot do without you, and I must ask for your help, right? Philby. To put it bluntly, you just want to have a legitimate name so that you can make me work? And the workload is probably not small, and it is still very boring and repetitive work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to smile like this. Okay, what do you want me to do? Tell me. Even if you want me to teach you this spell. Free. You have helped me so much. I can advance to legendary level, but you can take half of the credit for just a legendary level spell. It's nothing. Senior sister, you are so good. Gretel first sang a song of praise, and then began to assign tasks non-stop. It's like this. Senior sister, Your spell can strengthen the chromosomes of cells in a targeted manner. I was wondering if I could ask you to help me use the spell to maintain the development of dragon eggs, that is, to give the fertilized eggs a few hours. Philby really wanted to jot down something and slap it on Gretel's forehead. Chromosomes, chromosomes, such a powerful offensive spell, why don't you think of a way to learn it quickly and just think about your chromosomes? Thinking of your medical care. Alas, when will my little junior brother become more effective in combat? Yes, and more seeing the senior sister's eyes becoming more and more dangerous, Greet also quickly increased his speaking speed. It would be best if this spell could be imprinted in some kind of magic device and activated automatically. No need for a scroll, but a device? A device. A fertilized egg divides once every 7 or 8 hours, and once every 7 or 8 hours. After stem cells differentiate into a variety of cells, the division cycles vary. The human embryonic development period is 38 to 40 weeks, and the entire incubation period of dragon eggs is 420 to 720 days. If the senior sister is allowed to stay focused on this job and come every 8 hours, Greet estimates that in as short as a month or as long as half a year, the senior sister will be so annoyed that she will hunt him down. We must get out the spellcasting device before that. To put it bluntly, senior sister can't stay on Dragon Island forever and take root in the assisted reproductive department of the dragon clan. Philby's hands started to itch again and she wanted to slap someone. Do you know how difficult it is to make a spellcasting device and touch your lower lip lightly when speaking? Do you know how many legendary spells are registered and speculated to exist in the entire Magic Council? 268. Including the one I just developed, there are 269. How many of these can be made into scrolls? Less than 100. How many can be burned into specific spellcasting instruments? A fraction of 269, 69, folded in half, and a few more to be subtracted. However, seeing her junior brother blinking his eyes with a fawning look on his face, Philby retracted her outstretched hand. Damn it, the teaching is not strict, the teacher is lazy, the teacher gets along too little with him, and teaches too little. As brothers and sisters, they should fill in for the teacher. In this way. She replied thoughtfully. You need to draw a range for which dragon eggs you need me to cast spells for. I will cast spells first while slowly studying how to make a scroll. I have to wait until the scroll is made and the three-dimensional spell configuration is flattened before we can talk about it. The problem of making a spellcasting device. Drag. Drag it back. Drag slowly. After procrastinating for a year and a half, when the teacher's freshness wears off, the senior brother will stop clamoring and drag me to Nevis and return to the normal research rhythm. Hey, senior sister, you are so kind. Thank you, senior sister. Greet thanked him happily. As long as the extraordinary points of the dragon eggs can be illuminated, even if only a part of the guarantee is illuminated, it should be possible, theoretically, to allow these dragon eggs to be born smoothly, right? According to his research, a dragon egg with too few extraordinary points is not strong enough to successfully accept the inheritance of the dragon clan and needs external intervention. Then, a dragon egg with fewer extraordinary points may not be able to hatch at all and will die inside the egg. What if it hasn't been born yet? What if at the fertilized egg stage, because there is too little energy, many extraordinary points cannot be successfully replicated, causing the fertilized egg to fail to develop? There are too few intervention methods he can use now, and they are too indirect, and the effect is doubtful. It would be great if the senior sister can help. With such precise intervention methods, the success rate of cultivating dragon eggs will be much higher than if he did it himself, right? In this way, Philby plunged into Gretel's experiment. Of course, she soon regretted it. Gretel assigned her work without any hesitation and used her completely as a strong labor force. Here are 10 fertilized eggs. Each one needs intervention. Of course. Ah, senior sister, you are in charge of the experimental group. There is also a control group here to compare with your work. Here are 10 magic lizards. This one is used to try to accurately influence the dragon egg through the mother's body. There is also an ultrasonic guidance and positioning device here. Oh, senior sister. I know that your mental power is very strong and you can directly scan with your mental power, but what if the target of intervention is a female dragon? What if the legendary female dragon needs to give birth? Isn't it true that having something to help can at least save a lot of effort? Philby stared at her junior brother intently. Interfering with the fertility of the legendary dragon clan? Help the legendary dragons get pregnant? So next, are you going to extend your claws to other legends? For example, and for example. Let me make it clear first, your senior sister, I am single now, and I don't want to get married for the time being, don't expect me to have children or anything like that. That's for sure. That's for sure. Greet nodded like a pound of garlic. Regarding childbirth, it definitely depends on the wishes of the couple. As for singles, it depends on the wishes of the woman. I'm not a mad scientist. I won't go around arresting people, or cheating, or using unfair means to obtain test subjects for experiments. Besides, after becoming a legend, he has a long lifespan, and his partially elemental body also has enough youth and vitality. Senior sister can give birth whenever she wants. There shouldn't be any problems with her hormones declining as she gets older, causing her to be unable to give birth. Princess Norrell glanced at Gretel warily, and then at Philby. Legend. Legendary female dragon? Help the legendary female dragon get pregnant? Help the eggs in the legendary female dragon's body to successfully combine with foreign sperm to form fertilized eggs and develop successfully. Next, you won't be helping other legends get pregnant, right? For example, the magicians in the council, those legendary warriors in the kingdom of Kent, those sword masters, and so on. She stood up decisively. Since Philby you have successfully advanced, I won't bother you. Your teacher will be very happy when he hears this news. Well, if you have time, come to Sky Dragon City for a walk. You are already a legend and are qualified to go outside the world barrier. She stood up happily, pushed the door open, and returned directly to her mage tower through the teleportation array. Well, she is certainly willing to have a baby or something, but she is not yet in a hurry to seek outside help. She and Christine are still growing up in the future, so they can take their time. The senior sister left suddenly, and Gretel and the senior sister looked at each other, both feeling a little embarrassed. The two of them each found an excuse, left the conference room as if they were running away, and went to work. Of course, Gretel's duty is to inform his senior brother in Nevis. Hello? Hello? Damn it, I can't get through. Okay, Tower Spirit, contact the Tower Spirit of Babel, Mr. Herman Cruz. It's best to let senior brother Baebo know this news as soon as possible. Okay, sir. Contact us as soon as possible and let the legend of Balba know as soon as possible, don't pass the news to anyone else before him. It's never too late for good food, and it's never too late for good news. Especially for this kind of good news, it is better to be slower than to ensure that it is delivered to the right people. Anyway, as long as the battlefield situation is not unfavorable and we are eager to wait for the new legendary combat power to join, otherwise, this kind of news may come sooner or later, it won't be a big problem. Gretel, who was thinking this way, did not know that Balba's side was indeed in a situation of the battlefield situation was unfavorable and they were eagerly waiting for new legends to join. At this moment, he was banging the table with the legends, glaring, and making noise at the mouth. Our plastic energy department's allocation needs to be increased by 10%. Otherwise it will not be enough, not enough at all. What? Those materials for making the Well of Eternity? The Well of Eternity can be built, which is beneficial to the entire Parliament. It's not just for the plasticity department. According to what you said, I went back to build a new mage tower, and only let the plastic energy system is here. This is of course impossible. The energy supply of a mage tower that can support the mystery lock level of Igor Peak is as good as a Babel tower. Each school must have a share. Besides, the key materials for the Well of Eternity were brought out by Thunderhorn. It was Gretel who opened the way, and I personally traded with the elves. That won't work. You've already taken enough, Mr. Ripley, the chief steward and general accountant of the Magic Council, Jade Crown, kept shaking his head and denying. The proportion of resources allocated to each school has always been based on the number of legends, and is adjusted based on the number of magicians and the results of the year. When it comes to this, even Baebo can't refute it. Damn it, I've been a bit ruthless in spending money lately. It would be nice if there was one more legend of the evocation system. What? Phil buy advanced to legend. Thanks to Ed for the 500 starting coin reward. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Everyone, hurry up and vote for cats. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1728. The conference room fell silent for a moment. The legendary mages attending the meeting looked at each other, and each saw the shock, joy, and envy on each other's faces. A new legend. Lord Steiner of the Protection Department's Wall of Time and Space let out a long sigh of relief. It's great to have one more legend. Every additional legend means that they can have more high-end power when facing the Glory Holy See. Every time I calculate defense deployment, I have to do it in a pinch. It's really annoying. If you can give him more legendary combat power, give him as many as you can. Song of Dark Blue. Her Excellency Helena, who has a delicate appearance and looks like a doll, curled her lips, and looking at her face, she looked a little impatient. The third legend. One door and three legends. There are already three legendaries. From the conjuration system, when will there be another one? I have guarded Igor Mystic Lock, and I have done enough to guard him. That playboy who is a time traveler is floating in different dimensions all day long, and he is completely unable to take my place. I also want to walk around, I also want to go around the kingdom of the sun, I also want to see the sunrise and sunset in another space. How is it different from this world? But, in the past 50 years, I have not even stepped out 100 miles from Nevis. Mr. Jade Crown Ripley, who had been arguing the most about the budget just now, lowered his eyes helplessly. Three legends in one discipline, plus the person from the plastic energy department floating in a different space, that's four legends. Among the entire Magic Council and various schools of thought, the number of legends owned by the evocation department suddenly ranks first. Damn it! When there were 18 legends before, each school had only 2, and some had 3. There were 4 of them all at once. 4. According to the general rules of the Magic Council, the evocation department has an additional legend, and the resources allocated to them should indeed be increased. And it's not just a matter of having more copies. The number of legends in the evocation department exceeds that of all other schools. This means that on paper, in addition to allocating resources per person, they also have to be tilted towards them. In other words, in theory, the additional resources obtained by the plastic energy department should not be 1, but 1.2 or even 1.5. But where do these extra resources come from? Steal it? It feels like the speed at which the council is opening up new resource areas can't keep up with the growth of legends. It seems that trade with the Netherlands and the Cape Tien Kingdom will accelerate. The problem is that when trading with those places, most of the exports are industrial products, even magic industrial products. Population, population, workers, workers, mature and educated skilled workers, workshop owners with certain management capabilities, scholars, mage apprentices, low-level magicians. Where can I find so many people? Fall. The butler was so worried that he almost turned grey with worry. Ming had conquered the kingdom of Eagle before, opened up a large area of land in the northern part of the New World, and reached a trade agreement with the kingdom of the sun. Suddenly, he felt a lot more comfortable. Why are you suddenly short of money again? His old face wrinkled together, almost sighing. The few legends who are not responsible for the parliamentary finances do not bear the pressure like him. Philosophers rose. Your Excellency. Almeida raised her eyebrows slightly and her eyes lit up. Is the news correct? It has been confirmed. The information handed to Baebo was very detailed, so he answered with confidence, and the evidence was very clear. The wife of the Lord of Thunder, the elf princess, and the legendary natural spellcaster Norrell, and the legendary warrior follower Idian beside the mage Nordmark, together confirmed the advancement of Philby. In addition, 2 elf legend ancient trees were also present to witness Her Excellency Philby's ascension to the legend. After multiple confirmations, there is absolutely nothing wrong. The Star Dome has also detected abnormal magic fluctuations on the other side. Mrs. Ender was hidden under the black veil and nodded softly. It lasts for more than 3 days, extremely powerful energy infusion, special fluctuations, consistent with the energy level of the legendary advancement. That means the news is confirmed. The legendary mages exchanged another round of glances. Mr. Steiner of Time Barrier was the first to stand up and stretched out his hand to Burbo. Congratulations, congratulations to Your Excellency Philby. Please also express my congratulations to His Excellency the Lord of Thunder. 3 legends in 1 discipline. This achievement is truly unprecedented. Your Excellency the Lord of Thunder is truly a famous teacher. Is it possible that little Gretel is stronger? His Excellency the Immortal complained quietly. Alas, Lord of Plagues, what a boy. This is a great way to explore topic selection. The ability to draw territory wherever you run. Let the local races be willing to pay tribute and spend money to support his research. Not only does it support him, but it also supports the people he pulled over from the parliament. It was really a pity that he was not recruited into the necromancy system at the beginning. Baebo quickly turned his head and looked over. It's like this every time. Every time when little Gretel is mentioned, the necromancers will feel envious, jealous, and hateful, manifesting themselves in all kinds of yin and yang weirdness. Come on then, whoever is afraid of whom? Is it possible that it was little Greet who cried and shouted that he insisted on entering the evocation department, and he didn't even look at the necromancy department? Staring at each other, staring at each other. In the evocation system and the necromantic system, the 2 legends stared at each other, pinched each other, and complained about each other, and the fun began again. Several other legends pretended not to see it. Those who looked down at the information looked down at the information, and those who discussed in low voices gave them time to have a routine at each other. Half a minute later, Mr. Ripley of Jade Crown coughed lightly and brought the topic back to its original position. Well, according to the rules of the Parliament, more resources should be allocated to the plasticity department. But you also know that resources are relatively tight now. Let's calculate how much can be allocated and give you a reply later, okay? Of course. Baebo smiled calmly. I also need to communicate with Philby. After all, the authorization I received before was based on the original situation. Now there is another legend, the situation has changed, and it is beyond the scope of my authorization. What's more, Philby has become a new legend, and her ideas and needs should also be respected, right? That must be it. Every legend is a treasure of the council, and the needs of every legend have the highest priority. What's more, it's the first batch of resource needs for the new legend. So, whatever you want, won't be packaged in Philby's legendary needs and sent over in one wave, right? Jade Crown Mr. Ripley sighed secretly, feeling that he was under more pressure and his hair was getting whiter. Babel Tower has recently received so many supplies, so many high-end supplies exchanged with the Dragon Clan. It needs to be sorted out and put to good use. Make more high-end equipment in exchange for more income. Get moving, only by moving can you create more wealth. Treasures sleeping in the warehouse will never increase on their own. This legendary mage, who represents the strongest productivity of the parliament, has silently drafted dozens of production plans in his mind, preparing to launch various products. Philby, the new legend who was far away on Dragon Island, also received a message from her senior brother. What materials and resources do I want? I don't have any needs recently. I am here, eating and drinking from greed. All research projects are submitted to Greed for approval, and then I get resources from him. After I just advanced to Legend, the latest projects were all given by him. I don't have any special needs. The words were blocked before they even came out of his mouth. On the other side of the communication screen, the senior brother smiled brightly, which was similar to his title of Crown of the Fierce Sun. Don't worry, think about it slowly. The council is always generous to new legends. Whether it's equipment, resources, laboratories, and experimental equipment, whatever they can provide will be provided at once. This is a rare opportunity, don't let it go. So brother, what are you hinting at me? You are hinting to me, can the lion open his mouth and strike a big sum? Speaking of magic equipment, she really needs a few pieces of legendary equipment. If she goes back and follows the teacher outside the world barrier, she can stand for a while longer and attack more times, right? Then wait a minute while I sort out my needs and development direction for the next period of time. Hey, can you wait for a month? I also want to ask the teacher for advice. The teacher has gone outside the world barrier and will probably not be back until next month. No hurry, no hurry, Baebo tried his best to assure himself, and all he had to do was slap his chest. You can still afford to wait for a month. In this way, I will first determine the total resources of the energy shaping school with the council, distribute all the resources to them, and set aside your share for you. By the way, go back and pay attention to the mail. If I can find a list of the legendary equipment in the council's treasury, I'll send you a copy. In a few words, the senior brothers and sisters determined the total amount of resources Philby wanted to get this time, the approximate upper limit and the lower limit. Legend Baebo is full of energy and goes to quarrel again. The annual revenue and expenditure of the entire parliament is waiting for their budget table to be produced and implemented one by one. Philby can wait, but those ordinary magicians can't wait, and the wizard towers in other places can't wait even more. As for Philby Legend, she began to happily wait for the letter from her senior brother. Legendary equipment is always needed, and more than one is needed. First of all, you definitely need defensive equipment, right? A better magic robe. The mage robe she is wearing now was obtained before the last battle of Hall Strait, and it no longer meets the current level. In my impression, there are 3 high-level mage robes in the council's treasury. One is the Starry Sky Clothes, which seals a star map and can temporarily borrow the power of the stars for space teleportation. A robe of bones, this was the first to be eliminated, she didn't like the power of the necromancy system. A colorful long dress, mixed with the northern lights when weaving it, has a strong defense against various elemental attacks, but she doesn't like the color. Do you want to customize it? Also, in addition to defensive equipment, there are also offensive equipment and various application type equipment. Oops, it's so hard to choose. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Please give me a monthly ticket, meow 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 meow. The goal for this month is still 4,000 votes. If there are 4,000 votes, Cat will give 6 months of votes plus updates. The cat is rolling around in the typhoon, turning its belly, catching small fish blown up by the wind, and giving them to you in exchange for tickets. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1729. Monthly ticket adds 2 updates. Phoenix wings and purple gold crown. Golden chain mail. Lotus root silk walks on clouds. Gretel muttered. The voice was too low and Philby didn't hear it clearly, so she glanced over suspiciously. What are you saying? Ah, nothing, nothing. Gretel laughed. Baebo has already passed over the list of legendary equipment. He has inquired about it from the public warehouse of the Parliament, as well as from the Evocation Department warehouse and the Thunderhorn warehouse. Philby pulled Greet over with unusual generosity and looked at her. Come, come, see what you like, take it directly. I can get at least 3 pieces of legendary equipment. At least I can share one with you. Gretel doesn't want it at all, okay. Gretel has no shortage of legendary equipment, okay. When he left Yangju Island before, he packed up several pieces of legendary equipment from the elf secret vault, okay. Even Sirara and Idian have been assigned, okay. He doesn't go out to fight, and he has legendary bodyguards around him wherever he goes. His personal safety is in good order, okay. Legendary equipment, which improves personal safety and combat effectiveness, should of course be given to powerful warriors like Senior Sister. Of course, it's okay to look at the list and broaden your horizons. Gretel was invited to go, page by page, flipping through the list in front of her Senior Sister. This Yongkong staff is pretty good. It can enhance the power of space spells. Senior Sister Yu is a lightning mage. If the attack is strong enough, you have to run fast enough, and it can also help tear apart the electrical elemental plane. It feels very good. It suits you. This stand-in doll is not bad. It can block a fatal attack for the owner. Is it also effective for legends? Only for the first level of legends. That's not bad. You must get such a good thing. This floating cloud bead is also very good. Philby smiled as she watched her junior brother turn over and over again. For every piece of legendary equipment, he talks about where he can use it, and he thinks about it all for himself. Well, I must admit that it is very comfortable to work with this junior brother. At least he's generous and really doesn't cheat you. By the way, Senior Sister, you're going to stay here for a while, right? You won't go out to fight anyway. You can have it customized. We'll wait. During this time, I've saved a lot of dragon scales and so on. There are many high-end materials. This is also a way. Customizing a piece of legendary equipment costs about the same amount of points as getting a ready-made piece of legendary equipment, and bringing your own materials can even be cheaper. Your Excellency Jade Crown will definitely be willing to practice with high-level dragon materials that have never been seen before. More importantly, one is to get new equipment, and the other is to consume the original inventory. My own consumption is almost the same, and the overall strength that the Parliament can use has increased. This is a good idea. Little Gretel, let me see what is in the material library and then think about what I need. Okay, Senior Sister. I will give you access to browse the treasure house later. What's the matter? There are still a lot of things that haven't been entered. Those things that the Dragon Clan sent to the Mage Tower as research funds were specially sorted, entered, and kept in categories. He did not throw the personal gifts given to him by the Dragon Clan, including engagement gifts and so on, into the public accounts of the Mage Tower. The result of not throwing them into the public accounts was that he was lazy and lazy. So far, most of them have not been included in the book. Senior Sister, how about I just open the warehouse? You can go in and pick whatever you want, and by the way, help me do the accounting. You're so lazy. Hey, when talking to my junior brother, I can't always say more than 3 sentences and I can't be calm. Calm down, be calm, this is my junior brother, a junior brother who is only level 17. The skin is very brittle and cannot be beaten, otherwise it will kill you. Also, is this showing off your wealth? Is this really showing off your wealth? There are a lot of high-end materials and treasures in my treasure house, treasures that can be used to make legendary equipment. I'm too lazy to count them and make a list of them one by one. Crack. Ouch. Gretel's whole body was filled with electric sparks, and he jumped up holding his buttocks. Sister, why are you so cruel? Cruel? This is me. How about trying someone else? Philby sneered. Little Gretel, your mental training needs to be strengthened. What happened just now? When I am level 17 as senior sister, I will definitely not be able to avoid it. Greet floated away with a sad expression. The next day, Philby brought several disciples and a group of high-level alchemists into Gretel's private treasure house to help count, register, and create records. Finally, she selected several treasures from the dragon tomb. A pair of dragon horns from the legendary dragon clan, a huge dragon bone filled with active dragon bone marrow, and an ice crystal mine that has been infiltrated by the dragon clan's power for a long time and changed its properties. They also selected 17 or 8 kinds of ores, animal horns, animal blood, plant materials, etc. from the public warehouse, packed a huge box, and sent them back to Nevis on the next airship. Well, the 3 main materials, as well as those precious auxiliary materials, together, can make at least 2 pieces of legendary equipment. The pair of dragon horns can be made into equipment with the characteristics of psychic barrier, so that she will not be affected at all when facing the holy power of the glorious Holy See. With the silver mesh created by Greet, it is even more powerful, and the legendary second-level summons can be stably withstood. As for the dragon bone with dragon marrow, based on her understanding of equipment manufacturing, it would not be a problem to make an equipment that instantly replenishes vitality. It is impossible to bring the dead back to life. It is not difficult to destroy half of the body and regenerate it in half a minute. Even a legend can replenish life force at least 10 times. Another thing, she saw that there was a very good pocket watch in the library. Each month, you can use time stop 3 times. Turning the hands can briefly set the time back from 1 to 10 seconds. Of course, at the cost of destroying this legendary piece of equipment, the time in the surrounding 3,000 cubic meters can be set back 30 seconds. 30 seconds. In close combat, it can be very effective. If used well, it can almost be the final word. Alas, when will there be a special airship that can fly around and deliver all kinds of supplies they need? Maybe she should ask for an airship? No, 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 airships are still too expensive. This kind of thing should still be bought with public funds. Unfortunately, the energy required by the portal is too high, and the energy required by the long-distance portal is an astronomical figure. I hope that senior brother can speed up the progress of building the Well of Eternity. Maybe only that kind of thing can support cross-continental teleportation. If the Well of Eternity can be built, one in Nevis, no, one in the Kingdom of Kent closest to the New World, and one on the islands on the way, one by one, and it will be convenient to transport supplies. Even if it cannot transport large quantities of low-value materials, it can transport small volumes of precious materials, which can greatly increase the speed of communication between the 2 parties. One airship trip for more than half a month, one round trip, plus 1.5 months for renovations, it takes too long. A large amount of high-end materials were shipped to Nevis. Crown of Emerald Mr. Ripley was both happy and worried. Joy is natural, the council's treasure house can be consumed less, and I have high-level materials that can challenge myself. The worry is that with so many high-end materials, a huge amount of money will be spent on the mid-level and low-level materials used to match them. If he made no mistakes in testing the properties of these materials, some of the materials must come from the area ruled by the glorious Holy See, or even from the Black Forest where the vampires live, and the Orc Kingdom. Philby, you really gave me a big problem. He rubbed his forehead and went to see Mr. Almeida. Look, these materials need to be replenished recently. Please pass this list over and let our manpower at the eastern end of the mainland get the things over as soon as possible. The brain of the venom-eyed bat, the eyes of the golden-maned lion, the blood moon ghost crystal, the rosewood sacred object that has been worshipped for more than 100 years. Almeida took the list of materials and frowned more and more. Ripley, these materials are not easy to get. Are you pressed for time? If not, I will ask them to collect them slowly. They can probably get it together in 3 years. It's better to hurry up. Ripley smiled bitterly. This is what our new legend, Lord Philby, uses to make the legendary equipment she needs. She has already produced a large amount of materials herself. These are just supplementary materials. We are always embarrassed to give them too late. Although Philby is still on Dragon Island for a year and a half, she probably won't come back to the battlefield, and the need for legendary equipment is not immediate. However, Nevis cannot delay it too long. It's not difficult for me to speed up. Almeida nodded first, then shook her head. But look, here, the heart of the man-eating tree and the silk of the mutated ice crystal spider are all legendary level materials. If we go to the Orc Kingdom to exchange them, there will inevitably be news over there that we have an extra legend. You know it if you know it. Ripley pondered for a moment, then resolutely clenched his fist. It's time to let them know. The stronger we are, the less our opponents will dare to take action. Recently, the glorious Holy See has not sorted out their own troubles, so they probably won't dare to cause trouble with us. Some information cannot be concealed. Even if the Magic Council does not publish a special message in Arcane and Magic to congratulate the new legend, those who are interested can still find clues. The distribution ratio of Magic Council supplies has changed again. The evocation system, especially the Thunderhorn magicians, walk with an extra wind and talk extra loudly. The Magic Council has collected a large amount of high-end materials and is suspected of manufacturing legendary-level magic equipment. So, there is a new legend over there. The information we have received is this: in the dark apse of the church, the Grand Inquisitor's heavy face was dimly lit by candlelight. How long has it been? It hasn't even reached 10 years yet, and there is another legend. This situation reminds me of the time when the Magic Council was just established. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Cat asks for votes. Meow 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 meow. Everyone, throw your monthly passes that are about to expire to the cats. If you don't throw it away, it will expire. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1730. New Legend. The 20th Legend. From the glorious Holy See, exclude those who have been in charge of the Governor-General of the New World all year round, exclude those who listen to orders but not propaganda, exclude those who wander around without showing up at all, exclude those who explore different spaces. There are only 12 legends that can be used directly. As for the Magic Council, the number of legends sitting in Nevis has returned to 8. If this new legend is added, the number will be 9. 9 versus 12, the possibility of attacking the Kingdom of Kent is getting smaller and smaller. We even have to prepare for the Magic Council's counterattack. A legendary mage rushes in alone, goes to a certain city to bomb a city, pulls out a cathedral and leaves. The leader of the Holy Knights, His Excellency Pale Sword Ebi Lucio, silently grasped the hilt of the sword at his waist. He himself has never done such a thing, but the Holy Knights definitely did a lot when they were performing tasks outside. When the lambs are hungry, thirsty, tired, in pain and embarrassment, and beyond the reach of human power, they will need the grace of the Lord and need to pray to the Lord devoutly. Ebi Lucio himself does not agree with this argument, and does not allow his subordinates to do this. However, there are many people who do this in places beyond his sight. In the local church system and the tribunal system that he has no control over, there are even more people who do this. Moreover, what confused him was that even if he did such a thing, there would be no divine punishment. God's grace to evildoers has not diminished. Those who firmly believe that they are pursuing God's will and contributing to the promotion of God's grace can also be promoted normally on the path to the priesthood. In the end, Ebi Lucio could only talk secretly and pray silently, "Lord, your will is so profound that even a humble person like me cannot fully understand it." Then, restrain yourself and those around you more strictly, and continue on your own path firmly. Even though he and his close subordinates have never done this kind of thing, Ebi Lucio is still worried when he sees that others may do this. Not only for the suffering that the people may suffer, but also for the weakening of the power of the Holy See. There is a saying, when it comes to doing destruction work, magicians who master the power of elements are much more efficient than priests who master the power of divine magic and warriors who can only wield swords. If the damage caused by a warrior is 1, a cleric can reach 10, and a magician of the same level can do at least 50 to 100 damage if he only focuses on causing damage. One is ebbing and the other is ebbing. He heard the chief referee's voice ringing beside him, hard, tight, and dark and deep. We have to think of a way to contain them. If we don't contain them, it will be too late. As priests, can we only hope in the grace of our Lord? Front confrontation won't work, Abi Lucio responded reflexively. Now is not the time to start a war. Moreover, I have received intelligence that those pagans have attracted allies from other races. Of course, I got it too, the chief referee replied impatiently. There are dragons flying openly on the seaside and building nests openly, not hiding from the sight of mortals at all. Isn't this just claiming that the dragons had a hand? There are also dragons who come and go in the city of pagan magicians. According to very secret and unreliable news, there are also elves there, very powerful elves. Hateful. Those big reptiles, those pointed ears. Thousands of years ago, humans spent a lot of effort to drive them out of the continent and let the most abundant land belong to humans. Until now, the orcs can only stay in the hot desert, the dwarves can only hide in the bitter cold Blackgate Peninsula, the barbarians are in the wasteland, and the dragons and elves are almost extinct on the mainland. Those magicians and pagans, in order to gain an advantage in the internal struggle of mankind, did not hesitate to introduce alien races into mankind. Now is not the time for a full-scale war. Of course I know that the chief referee's voice was light and a little cool, like a snake crawling silently. But we have to do something. If we can't start a frontal war, then we should contain it from the side, make the border inspections stricter, and let those messy things come in less. Then, try to gather as many forces as possible. For example, the Kingdom of Brolin and the Kingdom of Rhine. Those royal families and those big nobles, if you can win over one more, try to win over one more. And those heretics. Try to kill as many as possible. As long as those heretics are around, some big nobles will not listen. On the throne at the end of the conference room, the Pope lowered his eyebrows and remained motionless, just holding the scepter in his hand tightly. On the top of the scepter, a drop-shaped sapphire as big as a pigeon's egg shone brightly, making his features look older and his hair sparse and white. Since the explosion of the Glory Holy City, he has released many large-scale magical spells and traveled among various forces, which has really made him old and haggard. Even so, he still perfectly maintained the Pope's demeanor, his expression was calm and compassionate, and he remained silent. I watched you argue, and I waited for you to come up with a plan. Sure enough, the local church and several cardinals started arguing with each other. The Brolin royal family has always been loyal to my lord. Several big nobles in the Kingdom of Brolin, such as the Duke of Leon, the Duke of Basque, and the Duke of Catalo, are very close to the royal family and are also close to the Holy See. Almost all the government affairs in their territories are entrusted to priests. The Capetian kingdom is also obedient to our Lord. It is not surprising for secular people to seek power on earth, but so far, our churches and clergy have not been affected. The king of the kingdom of Rhine, Joseph I, has recently sought the title of emperor. The king of the kingdom of Boi also respects and obeys us. All said and done, the most troublesome areas are the Netherlands and the two border vassals of the Rhine kingdom. There was a war in the Netherlands, and the church was basically torn down and smashed. The Holy See system was almost destroyed. Even if the Holy See launched a war again, it would not be able to gain the advantage of fighting on the mainland. What's more, the Netherlands and the Kingdom of Kent are separated by the Hall Strait, so it's very convenient for the magicians to go there for support. So, Saxony or Ascan? Pale Sword Abbé Lucio asked in a low voice. The Holy See headquarters, which had just bombed the Glory Holy City and relocated in embarrassment, urgently needed to re-establish its majesty and show its power. The best way to establish authority is to find an opponent and fight. Annexing a territory, oppressing all the forces in this territory to belong to oneself, and intimidating the surrounding forces. It's not okay to fight against an opponent who is too strong, as that will drain one's blood. For example, the vampires in the Black Forest, although their area is not particularly large, the dark sky that covers them all year round is particularly difficult to deal with. Not to mention, in the center of the Black Forest, the ancestor of the vampire family is sleeping, and according to records, he is a demigod. Even if you use high-level magic to kill him, the Holy See's losses will definitely be very heavy. There is no need to fight against an opponent that is too weak, such as a barbarian tribe in the wilderness. So what if we defeat the troops on an expedition? Meaningless. Only these two vassal states have always been disloyal, disobedient, and stubborn. They openly tolerated heretics, openly intercepted and even expelled the troops sent by the Holy See to arrest the leaders of the heretics. Of these two vassal states, it is best to defeat one or subdue the other, it is best to subjugate and annex the other. Only in this way can we intimidate all parties, and only then can we use the momentum of victory to snowball other small nobles who have dissident intentions. Saxony. To the right of the Grand Referee, a knight in black armor with a solemn face said in a deep voice. Frozen Flower is a female knight after all. As long as her husband dies and there is a knight who is loyal to the Holy See as her husband, she will naturally gradually lean towards the Holy See. Otherwise, a woman will compromise for her children. The Pale Sword immediately frowned deeply. To kill an innocent man, to interfere with a lady's marriage beyond her father, to force her into submission, to take her children hostage? He subconsciously raised his head, and happened to look at the opposite Mr. Sigifree, the unsullied walker, and both of them saw the disapproval in the other's eyes. However, simply using this reason to answer will definitely lead to a messy rebuttal. What brings people close to the Lord is the greatest favor to them, what allows a sinless soul to ascend to heaven is a good thing, and who should draw a clear line between people who do not believe in God. Plus a long paragraph of scriptures, endlessly. He couldn't argue every time. Precisely because he couldn't argue every time, he abandoned his position and fled into the wilderness. Wait first, wait and see what others say. If it doesn't work, the most you can do is raise your fists and have a fight. Inappropriate. Sure enough, someone from the cardinal's side spoke. The archbishop who spoke leaned forward with a sincere expression. The Duke of Saxony is in his prime. This golden lion is not simple, to say the least. Even if we manage to get a daughter, the Duke of Saxony will not be unable to give birth. Whenever he gives birth to another son, according to the inheritance law of the Kingdom of Rhine, the son's inheritance ranking is higher than that of his daughter. What about Ascan? White Wolf is already old. Big Bear is no longer young either. White Wolf has 5 sons, 3 of whom were killed in the war. 2 are incompetent and 1 is spoiled. There are some outstanding grandsons, but they are not old enough to hold a big position. Situation: Big Bear had 4 sons, 2 died in the war and 1 was reckless and violent. The remaining 1 was injured and paralyzed, and could only sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, but he was the shrewdest one. As for the paralyzed son, he was married before going to war, but had no children. There is only 1 illegitimate son, who is 31 years old this year and already at level 14. He has repeatedly made military exploits on the battlefield and is the most outstanding one among his grandchildren. Seeing that after 1 more breakthrough, I will be able to take charge of the family's divine sword. The intention in this exposition is clear. Pale Sword frowned. So what do you mean? What I mean is to support a person with enough potential and a desire for the Holy See to inherit the Northern Territory. In this way, the combat effectiveness of the Ascan territory will not be reduced, but the power of the Holy See will be expanded, right? It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Everyone, vote for the cat. The cat needs a lot of dried fish made from monthly tickets to work hard to update meow. If there are 4,000 monthly tickets this month, 6 more will be added next month. Meow. Thanks to @Black and White Wind Trace for the reward of 100 starting coins. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1731. Monthly ticket adds 3 updates. It is not an easy task to intervene in the succession of the border vassals. Even if you have an entry point and can take advantage of people's desires, it is not that easy to push an illegitimate child to the top. In particular, this illegitimate son is not a direct descendant. He is the grandnephew of the current head of the family and the illegitimate son of the second son of the current head of the family's younger brother. This person in the line of succession wants to ascend to the top unless all the people in front of him are destroyed. The family head's direct descendants, the family head's younger brother, the family head's younger brother's eldest son, the eldest son's descendants, kill them all before it's his turn. Oh, by the way, the family must recognize his identity and admit that he is a descendant of the Ascan family. Otherwise, even if all the sons and grandsons are dead, there will still be a grandson. By the way, the ancestor of the family is still there, the legendary swordsman, Frostwolf Julian Ascan, although he has almost disappeared, but for the person appointed by the Holy See to inherit the position of Earl, he still needs his nod. Otherwise, the 14th level illegitimate son, perhaps with the help of the Holy See, he can advance to the 15th level Heavenly Knight, will always be a workhorse, don't even think about touching him. Let the lords be unto the Lord, and the worldly be unto the world. This is the agreement between the Lord and the King of the earth. We should not violate it. After a moment of silence, the Pope spoke softly. We are not going to interfere with the succession of local nobles. We are going to help them, guide them, and make them correct. Therefore, we should cause as little harm as possible, and try not to let the killing come from our hands. Translation: if you want to kill someone, let the illegitimate son kill it by himself. If you want to steal the family artifact, let the illegitimate son steal it by himself. The Holy See can provide benefits in the dark, including armor, weapons, magical equipment, medicines that increase the probability of advancement, and even a few guards. It is best not to make the level too conspicuous until the last moment. Shiren can finally appear and make the final decision, in the name of the Lord of Glory, acknowledging the fact of the transfer of inheritance rights. However, before that, it is best not to act openly, but to do it cleanly, and try not to let the priests kill other people's families or anything like that. The scene was so ugly that other nobles were afraid to watch it. The cardinal, and the archbishop who preceded the cardinal, nodded together. His expression was pious and respectful, without any embarrassment. Interfering with the succession of nobles is a job they are familiar with and will ensure that it is done cleanly. That is, the Northern Territory is far away and they have few manpower. We may need more time to prepare. It's better to be slow than to make mistakes, the Cardinal warned sternly. White Wolf William is getting stronger and stronger, and he has at least 3 to 5 more years to live. Big Bear Albry looks rough, but he can persist on the battlefield to this day, and he is not as rough as he looks. Look down on them, you will definitely suffer. Yes. Don't worry. We plan to do this in 1 or 2 years, or even 3 to 5 years, and we must ensure the success rate. Someone above nodded, and the matter was settled. Of course, from exploring the details, to slowly arranging personnel contacts, to gaining the trust of the other party, to making careful moves, to making the final decision, this must be an extremely long process. 1 or 2 years is not too long, and 3 or 5 years is not too short. The person who plans the plan must be patient. The person being planned should best know nothing before the entire killing tactic is launched. Alas, it is difficult to do things. It takes a long time to launch this layout, which means that the results are slow. It is slow to take effect, and it will take several years for the effect to hit nobles everywhere. Fortunately, the Guanghui Holy See family has a great cause. Not to mention several years, even if it is 10, 50, or 100 years, it will definitely be able to withstand it. I don't believe that the Magic Council can increase the number of legends from 20 to 32 if they are given 100 years. The glorious Holy See is doing things silently, and the Magic Council is also doing things silently. And northwest of Nevis, on Dragon Island far and far away, Gretel is working silently, silently squeezing Senior Sister. Of course, those who take advantage of people are short-handed and those who eat people are soft-spoken. Philby took the high-level magic materials provided by her junior brother, and as a result, she had to work hard for her junior brother. After checking the list and sending away the materials, she came to Greet's laboratory and faced the rows of glass tubes, glass dishes, various monster eggs, and beast cages one by one. Didn't we agree to give the dragon eggs chromosomal enhancement first? Hey, Senior Sister, Gretel tried his best to raise a smile, but a furry tail grew out from behind him, wagging it from side to side, and the tip of the tail made a circle. Talking to Senior Sister is different from giving orders to the magicians in the Mage Tower. That requires patting and coaxing. In particular, the Senior Sister has recently advanced to legend, so you have to pay more attention to your methods when talking to her. After all, she is her junior brother. After all, she is many years younger than her. Oh, how many years younger? It doesn't matter, even if my senior sister is 18 years old forever, I am still many years younger than her, acting cute appropriately, no problem. Senior sister, dragon eggs are so rare. They are also so valuable. Senior sister, why don't you use other eggs to practice your skills? Look, for such a big egg, the fertilized eggs are only a little bit bigger. He raised his right hand, stuck his thumb on the tip of his little finger, and tried to make a little bit bigger gesture. Being able to directly locate a fertilized egg, or being able to directly locate a baby hatched in an egg, requires much less power than if a lightning bolt affects the entire egg. Moreover, you can also hone your positioning methods and power control. If a single shot affects only one fertilized egg, the energy output must be very, very small, otherwise the fertilized egg will explode. After saying this, Philby suddenly felt that her junior brother's concerns were justified. Think about it, her one shot, a bolt of lightning, was used to enhance the chromosomes of the little junior brother's entire body and hundreds of millions of cells. This kind of energy, even if it shrinks 10,000 times, is poured into a cell, it will probably explode with a pop sound. And if she wants to keep this thing from exploding, she really needs to practice more. Philby picked up an egg in silence. Not a monster egg, not a dragon egg, just an egg. Lift it up, move it towards the light, and take a closer look. Well, I found it. The feelings of visual search, ultrasonic search, and mental search are still different. It's a bit interesting to confirm each other. Then, she tightened her slender fingers slightly and made a crackling sound. The eggshell cracked. Sure enough, the output was still too strong, even though the fertilized egg had grown for a day and split several times, her lightning was still too strong and it simply burst the entire egg. If the object of this spell was a dragon egg, I guess the result wouldn't be much better, right? Egg yolks and egg whites splashed everywhere. Before it splashed onto the surrounding experimental tables, test tubes, flasks, beakers, or various instruments, a tiny wind of magic swept past. Throw the eggshells into the trash can. The egg liquid gurgled and fell into a large, clean beaker, with a capacity of 1 liter. Philby didn't even look at the result. With a casual move, another egg floated into her hand. Crack. Well, it exploded again. This method of controlling the output power is not very suitable, at least it cannot control it to the extent she needs. It has to go down again, keep going down. Crack. 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 Senior sister, please take it easy. You only ordered so many eggs in one day, and you ruined them all. The hens didn't even have time to lay eggs. Shut up, Philby spat back angrily. Aren't they just eggs? There are hundreds of eggs in a basket, and I didn't spoil or waste any of them. All the egg liquid is collected well, and when I finish practicing, it will be sent directly to the kitchen. Don't miss out on lunch and dinner up and down the Mage Tower. With the extra eggs, you can bake a cake or dessert. If you don't use it up, you can feed it to monsters and dragon beasts. In short, I have collected all the egg liquid using mage tricks. Why are you yelling at me? Philby worked hard to practice her spells, modify the spell structure, and strengthen her control. You must practice until you can strengthen the fertilized eggs of eggs without any damage, and then step by step, progress to demon lizard eggs, demon snake eggs, various pseudo-dragons and sub-dragons. Speaking of which, this kind of practice is also very helpful for her to enhance her control. Having just become a legend, the newly learned spells must be polished and polished before they can be used on the battlefield. By the way, speaking of which, did the monsters that the teacher fought outside the world barrier have such things as chromosomes? Can you catch a few live ones and analyze them? If there really are any, her chromosome breaking method can come in handy. Oh, no, at least there are no demigods. When she made this request, the Lord of Thunder, who returned from outside the world barrier again, ruthlessly rejected the disciples' request. The demigod I captured was also observed under a microscope using your method. The conclusion is that, at least on the demigod, or in other words, on the part of the demigod that I sampled and sliced, no chromosomes are observed. Philby. Okay, don't always think about taking shortcuts when it comes to war. The Lord of Thunder glanced at his disciple with a half smile. You'd better do your research and don't think about it. When I need you to go out to fight, I will naturally notify you. Well, during this period of time, you'd better make preparations and I'll take you up there to take a look. Philby's eyes lit up. You can go to Sky Dragon City. You can go outside the world barrier. She has been looking forward to this day for a long time. By the way, her legendary equipment and materials have just been sent to Nevis. I don't know when they will be sent back. Does the teacher have any equipment that I can borrow? Or? Greed had already moved over quietly. Facing the Lord of Thunder, his eyes seemed focused, but his elbow pretended to be unintentional and touched the senior sister once, and then touched the senior sister again. Do you want to borrow legendary equipment? Do you want to borrow it? Come back and help me catch some alien creatures and slice them up for a look. Asking for a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly pass. There are still 677 votes left to reach 4,000, so please work hard. Be sure to fill it up. If the vote is full, 6 more chapters will be added next month. 6 chapters. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1732. The Lord of Thunder looked helplessly at Gretel's mischief. I seem to be right in front of you. I seem to be looking at you too. There is only a table between you and me, so I can see everything you do. By the way, what do you have that you can lend me? Gretel put his hand on his belt. In the center of the belt, the mysterious stone that served as the buckle shone brightly. With just a flash, one piece of equipment appeared on the table one after another. Not many, just 3. Although the elves are generous to Gretel, Gretel is also generous to his companions. Idion, Ash Moonsong, Cyrilla, Bernard, and even Appa have a legendary piece of equipment. Gretel also contracted a legendary ancient tree, which was included in the reward share given to him by the elves. Naturally, the equipment of the companions cannot be borrowed. Of the 7 and 8 buckles, Gretel naturally only has 3 pieces left that he owns and can lend to his senior sister. Look, this invisibility cloak is woven with the long hair of the invisible beast mixed with the spider silk of the flying cloud spider lord, and then given the blessing of Lady Silver Moon. It is invisible, soundproof, blocks magic fluctuations, blocks dark vision, blocks smell. Philby put aside the soft and fine silver grey cloak with a dark face. She should have asked Gretel what he had in store. I should have asked a long time ago. This piece of equipment is very, very useful to Gretel. From the brief contact, Philby could feel that this cloak could even block the detection of legends, at least the primary level of legends. A weakling like Gretel who couldn't be beaten at all would be safe if he crouched somewhere while wearing a cloak, as long as he wasn't hit by a range attack. But what does she want with this thing? What do you want this thing for? She wants to get out of the world barrier. The rules there are different from here. Stepping out of the world barrier, if you don't add enough defense to yourself, you won't be able to survive there, if you add enough defense. With such a strong defensive circle, is this thing still necessary to exist? Look, this moon tree crown is made of the twigs of the world tree, with the fruit of the world tree embedded in it. It can maximize your mental power and make your mental power exploration more delicate. Transformation can also. Philby silently pushed the crown back again. I am not doing experiments at home, I am going out to fight, life and death in an instant. I'll leave this tiara for your research. Philby didn't even want to look at the third legendary piece of equipment, a pair of short boots. Whether these boots increase movement speed, add teleportation, or allow her to teleport to a fixed point in times of crisis. Anyway, for sure, no matter what, she would not share a pair of boots with her junior brother. She wouldn't put her feet in the boots that little Gret wore. Nor would she let little Gretel put her feet into the boots she wore. Although it is a legendary equipment, it is a normal setting to be able to transform freely, and it is a normal power to be able to purify itself. It will never let one person's foot odor contaminate the next person. But, in that case, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps, okay. After being glanced at once, twice, and 3 times with disgust by his senior sister, Gretel could only smile and put the pieces of legendary equipment back into his storage belt. You're careless, senior sister can't use these legendary equipment at all. If I had known this, I should have encouraged my senior sister to first receive 2 pieces of legendary equipment from the council treasury, and then slowly make my own. Okay, there will be no more. Philby's eyes suddenly softened again. Senior sister, I have received your wish. When I get outside the world barrier, if I can do it, I will help you catch a few enemies and bring them back to you for slices. As he spoke, he smiled brightly, stood up, and walked towards the teacher. The Lord of Thunder stood up, and before going out, he turned and glared at Gretel. Do your research well. Polish your academic system and your spell ideas. Your research is a means, not an end. It is to help you advance, not to make you fight with the dragon clan. So what if we can't figure out a dragon egg cultivation plan? If you can't help the legendary dragon clan give birth to offspring, so what? Your path is not there. Gretel bowed his head in disgust. However, the results are the summary and verification of the academic system and new spells. Just like a senior brother ascending to legend in one step, the way to verify it is to directly rub a nuclear bomb with your hands, burn the sky and boil the sea. Just like a senior sister ascending to the legend in one step, the verification method is a thunder light that lights up the chromosome points with powerful energy. He is advancing on his own, and if he wants to take a steady step forward, he must achieve something. The study of chromosomes and the study of the energy essence of chromosomes is the step he ascends. And if you want to confirm whether the step is solid and stable, or whether it is false and will collapse if you step on it, you must rely on results. Only when the required results are obtained can it be confirmed that his research is correct. Besides, the required results will also bring him feedback from the real world. Gifts from the world are coming in a steady stream. This is the most comfortable and safest way to advance. Greet turned around and left. Walking outside, I looked back at the teacher's mage tower and the torrent of elements in the mage tower. The teleportation door opened, and the teacher and his senior sister stepped out in one step, straight into Sky Dragon City, and straight into the sky. Fight outside the world barrier to gain more security for the entire world, and gain more resources for themselves to move forward. And he himself has to continue to study, study, study. Making the dragon clan more fertile, leaving more offspring, and being able to face the dangers ahead without any worries is his answer to the world. Through this, he can also go one step further and gain insight into the reality of the world. What is the nature of transcendence? What is the nature of legend? Is it energy? Is it matter? Is it the movement of particles? Is it the fluctuation of energy? Or is it the perfect unity of energy and matter, or the duality of waves and particles? At level 17, the magic path under the legend has come to an end. 9 ring spells, in theory, can be cast by level 17 magicians. Going further up is the elementalization of the physical body and the substantive transformation of the meditation world, which are polished step by step and tempered step by step. Level 18, level 19, half step to legend, close to the limit of legend. How can the human body become elemental? Why is the human body considered water? Why fire? Why electricity? Taking a step back, how do the proteins that make up the human body avoid denaturation in high temperatures and intense fires? How does the meditation world composed of spiritual power expand? How to go from interfering with matter with spirit to forming matter with spirit? When the world of meditation opens up, does a real world emerge that people can step into and touch? Asking for a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket, meow meow meow. There are still 12 hours and 222 monthly passes. It's not difficult. Come on, everyone. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1733. No matter how much thinking, no matter how many assumptions, we can only fall into two things, one is experiment, and the other is calculation. Greet was not good at calculations. He had returned advanced mathematics to the teacher a long time ago and reluctantly picked it up by flipping through the book. He only knew how to do the examples and had no idea what this mathematical tool is used for. Experiments, I have done a lot of experiments over the years, and I still have some experience. Gretel sent away his teacher and senior sister, and once again dived into the experiment. The Lord of Thunder flew out of the sky with his newly legendary disciples and flew outside the world barrier. "Come on, don't rush to fight yet." Looking up at the dark universe, the Lord of Thunder told his disciples with great concern. "First let go of your small world and wrap yourself up. The small world can maintain a living environment you are accustomed to and protect the safety of your physical body. Come on, practice it first." Philby followed the teacher's instructions and carefully activated her mental power to open up her small world. After adjusting it a few more times, I felt that I was done, and then nodded to the teacher. The next moment, the Lord of Thunder withdrew his power, leaving her directly exposed to the universe. The small world shook, and the barrier rippled slightly. It was obviously a small world like a meteor, but there were slight ripples on the surface. Philby's face was solemn, and she stretched out her hands, spreading them like flowers. Layers of spell runes flew out from between her hands and flew towards the barrier of the small world, quickly adjusting the energy properties of the outer defensive shield. The Lord of Thunder just stood aside and watched without giving any instructions, demonstrations, or help. Only when the flaming meteorite approached and the long wind roared with black space cracks, he took action to block and repel it so that the disciple would not be distracted. Finally, the entire outer barrier quieted down and stopped moving. The tingling sensation and slight warning signs on the face and hands also disappeared. Philby then breathed a sigh of relief, and looked at the Lord of Thunder with a little more gratitude and reverence. "Teacher, fortunately you are there. When you step outside your own world for the first time, various problems always arise. Like just now, with a teacher watching over you, you can still adjust slowly. If there is no teacher watching over you, if meteorites hit you and cracks in space blow up, you will inevitably lose sight of one thing and lose another. If you are unlucky, you will inevitably get injured or something. If you are extremely unlucky, you may die on the spot. Many of the legends of generations exploring the outside world and exploring different spaces died due to such sudden changes. Is it okay? What insights do you have?" the Lord of Thunder asked with a smile. Philby concentrated slightly, felt the power coming from the small world barrier again, and answered seriously. "It feels, in addition to the temperature and air that need to be adjusted, the impact force coming from the outside is mainly various rays. Well, waves of various wavelengths, various particle flows." She squinted her eyes, paused, lowered her eyes again, and felt it carefully. After a while, he added, "There are many waves that I have never felt. It seems, there are also some particles that I have never felt. Teacher, if we can build a mage tower here and study it all year round, I think it will be very helpful to the development of the plastic energy system." "Build a mage tower?" The Lord of Thunder looked at her seriously. This idea was something he had never thought about before he went out to heaven for the first time. Baebo had never thought about it before he went out to heaven for the first time. It was Philby who had such an idea. Very good, worthy of being his disciple, worthy of being the legend of their thunder horn. Only, have you ever thought about how difficult it is to build a mage tower outside the world barrier? Philby lowered her head in shock. There are naturally many difficulties. The first is the materials required to build a floating mage tower. There is no floating mage tower in the entire Nevis and the entire Kingdom of Kent, so you can imagine the difficulty. Even if there may be 2 floating mage towers in a distant corner of this world, in some different space, they are not under the control of the Parliament and were not built with the financial resources of the Parliament. Philby is a new legend who has not been here for a long time. With her little savings, compared to the entire Parliament, she was almost empty-handed. What does she use to build? What to build? No money, no stuff, she whispered. Even if we have enough materials. You can't even lift it up. The Lord of Thunder looked at the female disciple gently. Also, where are you going to put it? How are you going to anchor it? Philby looked stunned. She lowered her eyes again, opened her arms, and raised her head slightly. In the small world, in the center of my own shield, I silently feel the movement of the world. It seems to be moving. It doesn't seem to be moving, but it is actually moving. The world under your feet is rotating, and the small world is slowly rotating with the main world under the pull of a huge force. It's not obvious, and would be almost unnoticeable without the howling wind and billowing clouds below. But once noticed, it's impossible to ignore. In what way does it move? And in what way is it positioned on the earth? When lifting it up, what kind of movement trajectory do we need to pay attention to? After being lifted up, is it relatively fixed in a certain position, or should it be given a speed so that it can move with the world? There are a lot of things that need to be calculated to build the mage tower in this place. Philby frowned and murmured. All of the above issues must be thought through. Strictly speaking, they must be calculated and understood. Calculate clearly the size, shape, weight, spell properties, and required thrust of the mage tower, and also take into account the differences between those within the world barrier and those outside the world barrier. It is not clear enough to start implementation. Even if you barely lift Mage Tato, it will still fall, disappear, become a laughing stock and a waste. Don't be anxious, the Lord of Thunder said gently. Don't be anxious. You are already a legend, and you have a lot of time to realize your plan. If the floating mage tower you want is built above the Sky Dragon City dash. He turned around, waved his hand, and made a big half circle. This is the solution with the lowest lifting cost and lowest maintenance cost. However, we still need to do a lot for the Dragon Clan in exchange for their permission. If it is built on the top of the Tongtian Tower, then the cost of lifting the Mage Tower and the cost of personnel will be very, very high. Moreover, they have to worry about the attack of the Glory Holy Sea. For the time being, you'd better fly up and down a few more times, observe and do experiments in the sky. It's not a question of how many trips. Philby agreed with great distress, already thinking about how she would fly out countless times to conduct experiments in the next few years, maybe decades. And now, for the time being, she doesn't have the luxury of experimenting. Philby followed her teacher and flew to the Dragon Clan's meteor base suspended in the sky, gearing up for war. If we have a good relationship with them, maybe we can use the Dragon Clan base to open a laboratory? Asking for a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket, meow meow meow. The last 100 monthly tickets are available. The last 4 hours. If you cast another 100 monthly votes, you will have 6-month votes to add to the list next month. The cat will accompany his father to the doctor tomorrow morning. I will try my best to update on time tomorrow. If it is late, please bear with me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1734. Thunder and light burst out, and the flames were like flowers. Philby followed her teacher, flying fast outside the world barrier, flying fast. While flying, he stretched his arms and gently pointed outward. Crack! Crack! Brush, brush, brush. Lightning, flames, rainbow light, ice, magnetic fields, force fields, all the attack methods she could think of, poured out continuously. Some effects are extremely powerful, far exceeding those within the world barrier, such as certain effects brought about by rainbow light attacks. Some effects are average, such as lightning and flames, and are almost indistinguishable from those within the world barrier. Some effects are unsatisfactory, such as ice. Maybe it was a cold and dead world outside the world barrier, or maybe these intruders had long been accustomed to the extreme cold. A sheet of ice energy gushes out, which has almost no impediment to their movements. An ice wall is erected, which does not slow down their movements except for the need to break through it in a physical sense. Philby kept trying, observing, and recording. The Lord of Thunder did not stop her, nor did he urge her to speed up the battle. He just watched silently from the side, and occasionally took action to block one or two particularly threatening attacks for her. He is very patient. A new legend, a legend who emerges from the world barrier for the first time, always needs a process. Even if you have enough written information and read the most battle records in advance, it cannot replace your own attempts and understanding. In addition, every magician is different, and the methods of each legend are even more different. Even though Philby and he were from the same sect, and both were in the direction of lightning, their attack methods and attack power were quite different. Let her go. It would do her good to try it for herself and keep it in mind. Hey! Your Excellency, Lord of Thunder. Behind him, a huge presence caught up with him. Philby turned back from a distance and saw a red dragon as big as a small mountain. It spread its wings and soared upwards, reaching them in an instant. Instead of chatting, he cut directly from his left side, spread his wings, and stood in front of him. Breath fire, spit fireballs, throw out flame waves, push out fire walls. Coupled with wing beats, claw strikes, body collisions, and a round of fighting, everything in front of you was cleared in an instant. Then he turned around and bowed his head slightly to Philby. Beautiful lady, welcome to your arrival. How did it feel for the first battle? Do you want me to accompany you further up? Philby glanced at him speechlessly. What is this red dragon doing? Flirting with her, teasing her, or teasing her? No, thank you. It's a pleasure to fight alongside you, but I have my own rhythm when it comes to fighting. She took her time and continued testing. The red dragon didn't get angry when it hit a soft nail. It spread its wings and continued to charge forward. Soon, several strange creatures jumped out of the void and fought with him. The red dragon took the lead and blew out a breath, burning the first one into charcoal. The aftermath swept over the second one, spraying half of its body into pieces. With a hook of his tail, he knocked the third one far away. Before he could adjust his movements, the space flickered, and another thing that looked like a big bug with a slightly translucent body pounced on the back of the red dragon. The body naturally deformed, turning into a pyramid, rotating, pressing down, and piercing the red dragon's back fiercely. Ouch! The red dragon howled miserably, its skin ripped open, its scales cracked, and the pyramid was halfway in. However, it did not lose its ability to resist. It even howled and passed around its tail. The tip of its tail was filled with wind and hit the pyramid hard. Snapped. Philby seemed to hear a soft cracking sound. A long gap opened in the middle of the pyramid, extending to the center, and dozens of large and small cracks extended beside it. Philby was stunned. What kind of combat method is this? Is it all about rough skin and thick flesh? Is it all about the flesh? If this pyramid is bigger or longer, it will pierce into your spine and injure your spinal cord. What should you do? She had read Greet's paper, and she was very impressed by the important role of the spinal cord in the human body. Dragons don't just rely on their big size and thick scales to withstand damage, right? I really don't feel like a reliable teammate. Even so, Philby couldn't ignore it. She raised her hand and pointed, lightning flew and exploded on the pyramid. The entire pyramid flickered, and the speed of rotation seemed to slow down a bit. Maybe it was frozen by the electricity and had no strength to continue rotating against the dragon's powerful body and huge friction. However, the red dragon also screamed and exhaled wisps of smoke from its mouth. The wings twitched and the dragon's claws twitched. They could barely hold up the defensive circle around them and were about to fall down. Ouch! Is this thing conductive? Is it highly conductive? I've electrocuted similar monsters before, but I didn't find it conductive. Philby was stunned for a moment. Next to him, the solemn voice of the Lord of Thunder came. Be careful, the conductivity of this enemy is different when it is flashing and not flashing. When it is black, it is almost non-conductive, but when it is white and transparent, its conductivity is very strong. Well, she really didn't expect this to happen. Philby's fingertips slightly hooked, and the electric field turned into a magnetic field. From top to bottom, the dense magnetic field lines squeezed in firmly from the protruding part of the pyramid and from the gap made in the pyramid. Then the spell changed again, the magnetic lines turned into force fields, dragging, pulling up. With a loud bang, the pyramid was pulled out of the dragon's back and flew into the air, blood and minced meat splattered everywhere. The moment it penetrated the dragon's back, the lower part of the pyramid had been liberated and transformed into a forked form that resembled tree roots and claws, with large and small barbs at the end. This time the forceful pulling was not about pulling out the flesh and blood. That is to say, if she strikes quickly, if she strikes slower, the pyramid-shaped thing can penetrate completely into the back of the red dragon. Ouch! Ouch! The beauty is going to kill me. Beat it to death first, the red dragon screamed in the air. Beat that guy to death. Beat to death. Burn to ashes. Next, I can even absorb the part that is inserted into my body to replenish my own energy. You pulled it out directly for me, without mentioning flesh and blood. You should at least give me some pain relief first. Philby was busy using fire, electricity, and various magical energies to turn that pyramid. Insect. He was beaten until his soul was knocked out, and he died until he could no longer die. By the way, I put away the blood and flesh of the red dragon and packed them in a separate container. This trophy is to be taken back to Little Greed. He said he wanted to take a slice and see if he could make chromosomes or something. Do you want your flesh and blood? If you don't want it, it's mine. Hey. Hey. You can't just take this flesh and blood back. There might be insect eggs. Today I went with my dad to see a doctor. The doctor directly ordered an MRI. The results will not be available until the examination is completed. The good news is that the doctor has added WeChat, you don't need to go there after the examination. Send the results to the doctor on WeChat first, and then talk about it after communication. Crying and begging for a monthly pass, begging for a guaranteed monthly pass at the beginning of the month. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1735. Chapter 1730 Little Greet, Senior Sister can't catch this extraterrestrial creature for you. Monthly ticket adds 1 update. The red dragon Angzi rolled in pain in the air. Is it easy for him to meet a lady? How easy is it to meet a beautiful lady? They dragon clan are all fierce ladies. Whether it is a red dragon or a black dragon, the female dragon that can advance to the legendary level is even more fierce than the male dragon. Raise your claws and spray fire, chasing him from one end of the territory to the other. Let's not talk about gold dragons and silver dragons. They are naturally displeased with red dragons. The gemstone dragon was even more aloof. He rubbed it with gold and silver ejected from the volcano without even thinking about others giving him a good look. Most of the girls from Gemstone Dragon will be dealt with inside Gemstone Dragon. Occasionally, they are willing to take a look at the guys from Gold Dragon, Silver Dragon, and Copper Dragon. However, these chromatic dragons are either disliked for having dirty mud on their bodies, or being disliked for smelling like sulfur in their mouths. On the huge Dragon Island, apart from the Dragon Clan, there are only some Dragon Clan dependents. You can fall in love occasionally to pass the time, but you can't use it as a marriage partner. There are only a few humans who pass by Dragon Island, and they are basically not legends. If it's not a legend, what should we pay attention to? Dragons, even if they are not legendary, can still have a guaranteed lifespan of 1,200 years, and there is really nothing to talk about with non-legendary humans. Legend, after so many years, he has seen a human female legend. Still single? There are still no suitors around. If he didn't pounce on him quickly, it would be a shame. He was near the water today and happened to meet the opponent for the first time. Red Dragon Angzi's idea was loud and clear. Charge forward first to show your bravery and fearlessness, and your powerful combat power. Then he invites the beautiful woman to stand on his back, carrying her all the way to kill, so that she has a sufficient sense of security and believes that he can protect her safety. Then, he drove her on the battlefield, fighting and connecting with each other. When everyone gets acquainted with each other and has some emotional foundation for each other, then we can start a passionate pursuit. It's best to be able to transform the friendship of fighting side by side into love or something, well, after enduring a few difficult battles together, maybe getting injured, facing a dilemma or something, maybe, probably, that's it, falling in love? But unfortunately, the beauty has not fully released her fighting power. He, the great red dragon Angzi, the future legendary third order dragon, has been injured. Not only was he injured, but it was with the help of a beautiful woman that he got rid of the thing that got into his body. In this way, the beauty's evaluation of his combat ability will fall to such a low position, the beauty will definitely look down on him. And the beautiful woman didn't care about him at all. To say she cared, she also cared about whether the flesh and blood he spattered could be used as her own. He must have been taken back to that Nordmark mage for experimentation. Experimenting on her junior brother. Beauty, your junior brother already has a significant other. No matter how nice you are to him and no matter how many things you give him, he will only respect you as a senior sister and he will not come after you. The red dragon Angzi couldn't help but howl in the sky when he thought of the tragic place. Philby ignored him, her fingers flew like flowers, pulling the force field strings one by one, and took back all the loot. Dragon blood. Dragon meat. Dragon scales. Dead unknown creature. Fragments of unknown creatures. What? There will be insect eggs. Philby tilted her cheek slightly, but kept moving her hands, just flying out of a box and collecting all the dragon blood and dragon meat. The 6 sides of the box are shining brightly, and dark blue water mist is spinning and flowing silently. This storage box was made by the Plasticity Department, the Conjuration Department, and the Transformation Department. The Plasticity Department provided a large amount of liquid nitrogen. The Conjuration Department was responsible for designing the space spell plan and importing the liquid nitrogen, and the Transformation Department was responsible for manufacturing it. A small storage box, conservatively estimated, can store 1 cubic meter of materials, and the liquid nitrogen on the wall of the box was quickly used as the casting medium to lower the storage object to nearly -200 degrees. The outside of the liquid nitrogen box is inlaid with magnets on 6 sides. Even if something can withstand the low temperature of -200 degrees and breaks out of the box, the strong current and magnetic field will teach the thing inside to behave. The box spun around in the air, and all the dragon's blood, dragon's meat, dragon's scales, and dragon's accessories were swallowed up completely, leaving nothing behind. Red Dragon Angzi watched her flesh and blood being taken away, and the box fell directly into the hands of the female magician, feeling sad. Beautiful lady, when you do research on the things in this box, please remember that these flesh and blood come from my Red Dragon Angzi. Then, he saw the beautiful woman on the opposite side leading the way, wearing clothes made of thunder and lightning, and clothes made of flames. Her feet stepped on the magnetic field, and her hands circled the rainbow light, and she ran menacingly into the dim light above her head. Although he was just a human being who had just entered the legend, his strength and magic reserve were far inferior to his own, but when he started to attack, his aura was still several times that of his. As soon as he rushed up, the electric light was brilliant, the fireworks were in full bloom, the strong wind blowing down from his head, the dim light rolled in the strong wind, and the black space cracks struck by the whip in the dim light were all swept away. Even in those dim lights, there will be various enemies constantly, swiping, tumbling and falling out. The beautiful lady flew upward with all her strength without looking. Those enemies fell out of the space cracks like rain, and then were swept up by a whirlwind around her, gathered up, put into a small box, and disappeared. Those enemies are very troublesome. Obviously his level is not yet legendary, but relying on his natural strength, he can hide in the gaps in space, looming. If he accidentally rushes out to you, you won't be able to catch him. Whether it's an 11, the red dragon, or the red dragon, black dragon, golden dragon, and gem dragon brothers around him, I don't know how many of them were injured by this move. Only dragons who are proficient in space magic can effectively deal with this kind of damage. The question is, among the dragons, how many can play with space like eating and drinking? This beautiful lady, why are you so strong? The red dragon Angzi was still a little unwilling. He twisted his long neck and sprayed a mouthful of flame into the wound on his back. The high-temperature flames of the molten gold stone fell on the muscles, but did not burn the area around the wound to charcoal. Instead, the muscles squirmed and grew. First, the blood vessels extend. Those blood vessels that have been torn and pulled out by the strange insects automatically grow forward and merge with the broken ends in front. Thick and hot dragon blood flows through them. Then the muscles grow upwards layer by layer, from the deepest crack to the huge gap at the top. The muscles first forcefully close together, then roll over and grow a bunch, and then a bunch, and quickly grow. The missing flesh and blood is filled in. Next, a translucent film spread over the top of the flesh and blood, tightly sealing the entire wound. The film shrank, layered, deformed, and lines appeared. Soon, layers of dragon scales appeared where they had been torn before. Hoo, ho. The red dragon Angzi sighed happily, flapped his wings, and quickly chased after him. Philby didn't even look at him, she already turned around in the dim light and leaned towards the Lord of Thunder. Teacher, I basically have an idea. Is it okay to end today's battle? Can you go back and do some experiments? Of course you can do experiments. However, it is very unacceptable to bring things back with you. Philby followed her teacher back to the meteor base that the dragon clan had placed outside the boundary, and was immediately greeted by a dragon on duty. Welcome back. Thank you for your hard work. Madam, we noticed that you collected some things outside the world barrier. Please note that you must not bring them back to the barrier without our inspection and confirmation. What? Philby expressed her doubts with her eyes. The crystal dragon on duty smiled and nodded. These invading races are always difficult to kill and brought back to the barrier. From time to time, they will grow out of nowhere and cause trouble. We have suffered several losses, and now we have made a rule that we cannot bring them back without careful inspection. Go back. It was reasonable and well-founded, and she also cited several unlucky incidents where one side of the Sky Dragon City was bombed and the other was injured. Philby was not an unreasonable person. What's more, experiments can't be done outside. Whether it's a small world or a mage's mansion, the conditions are more than enough. Philby unloaded her capture on the meteorite and went down empty-handed. Get a mobile tower spirit. Get a microscope. Slicing, staining, processing, various experimental instruments, various experimental drugs, various high-power microscopes and other things, all here. After getting the instrument, she rolled up her sleeves and started the experiment directly at the Dragon Clan's meteor base. Slice, slice, slice hard. 1 round of cutting, 1 round of dyeing, 1 round of observation. Strange, this doesn't seem to be a common biological cell structure. Philby was confused. Since Gretel invented the microscope, even magicians who least care about academic development have to take a look at various biological cell structures. Not to mention, in the past few years, Philby has been involved in all kinds of research while working in Gretel's Mage Tower. She basically dealt with plant cells, animal cells, various parts of the body, and cells of various shapes. I've never seen anything like this. There was no cell membrane, no nucleus, no various structures that she was already familiar with, no division, no exchange of internal and external energy or matter. Cut from the top of the pyramid to the damaged part, and then to the roots and claws below. Each part is sliced piece by piece from the inside to the outside. Cutting and cutting, it feels like the subtle structure of each part is the same. This is not right. Philby frowned. Greet showed her cell images of various creatures and different parts. All kinds of cells look different. Plant cells and animal cells, onion skin cells and cork cells, cells in the epidermis of tree roots and cells in the core of tree roots. Oral epithelial cells, bone cells, blood cells, liver cells, kidney cells, and blood cells all have their own appearance, and each one is different. And now, every one of these things under her microscope looks the same. In other words, not every one, there is no concept of every at all. These things cannot be distinguished as independent individuals. Little Gretel, I'm sorry, I may not be able to get you the chromosomes you want. Philby murmured helplessly. She touched it with her mental power, analyzed it with her mental power, and found that the pyramid in front of her had a crystal-like structure. Is that how it is originally? Or was it damaged by electricity and burned down? This is not impossible. Among magic, there is a petrification technique. If the petrified person is broken into pieces, he will be irreversibly damaged. Maybe, after petrification, the cells also turned into a stone structure? Philby reminded herself in her mind to go back and look through the papers to see if anyone had done any research on related cell morphology. Otherwise, why not look for it among the dragon meat? The dragon clan has said that insect eggs will be found in the dragon meat dugout. So, what exactly are the so-called insect eggs? She opened the frozen storage box and cut a piece of dragon meat 1 foot square, and her spiritual power was soaked in it delicately like mercury. Soon, her brows moved slightly. There is indeed something strange. There are suspected worm eggs. In other words, there is a subtle but obvious energy response. Buried in the flesh and blood of dragons, absorbing the surrounding energy, growing slowly but unquestionably. During the mental scan, these insect eggs are like stars in the night sky, and like whirlpools on the sea. Emitting light and absorbing energy, its existence is getting bigger and bigger in the reflection of spiritual power. Of course, this is just the big feeling of mental power. If you measure it carefully, its volume is still very small, smaller than the tip of a needle and smaller than a cell. Fortunately, it is still larger than atoms, and much, much larger than electrons. Philby nodded slightly to herself, took out the microscope, set it up in an orderly manner, and set up spell restraints and protection around it. Then, with a light movement of mental power, he picked out an worm egg. Let me see what kind of existence you are. The insect egg floats in the void in the microscope, and the rushing electron flow rushes past, illuminating its true form. While scanning with her mental power, Philby turned her head and looked at the image calculated by the mobile tower spirit. After a long time, she slowly let out a breath. Interesting, really very interesting. The structure of this worm egg is very similar to that of a gem. In other words, it is very similar to the crystal structure of gems and minerals. Layer after layer, layer after layer, two different existences, or it can be temporarily described as two different atoms, each layer is the same kind of atoms, forming a regularly arranged array. And different atoms are like a layer of bread, a layer of meat, another layer of bread, another layer of meat, stacked up layer by layer. Philby gently pressed a button next to her, and a milliliter of dragon blood was turned into blood mist and sprayed towards the worm eggs. Then, she saw a strange force escaping from the worm eggs, absorbing a certain substance in the dragon's blood, and stacking another layer, and many layers on the surface of the worm eggs. Please give me a guaranteed monthly pass. There is still no double monthly ticket this month, so don't wait any longer and vote for Cat Meow now.